We tend to think of history as a secure, indestructible vault. But the truth is, the records of our past can crumble instantly. Take the Yongle Encyclopedia. In the early 15th century, the Ming Dynasty deployed thousands of scholars to compile all known Chinese knowledge into over 11,000 volumes. This animated diagram visualizes the scale of that original 11,000 volume collection. Today, 96% of that massive encyclopedia has vanished without a trace, leaving only about 400 volumes in existence. If the largest encyclopedia compiled in early human history can almost entirely disappear, our general understanding of the past hangs by a desperately fragile thread. That fragility extends right into modern culture. In 1929, an illustrator named Lynd Ward published a book called God's Man. Ward told his story entirely through 139 black and white woodblock prints, without a single line of text. It established a visual language that paved the way for the modern graphic novel. 2 decades later, another pioneer appeared on the newsstand. Negro Romance was a 1950s comic book featuring middle-class black characters experiencing ordinary love and heartbreak. Instead of relying on demeaning stereotypes, the creators wrote grounded, realistic interpersonal drama and drew their leads with dignity. But official archivists in the 1950s weren't actively collecting romance comics. This entire print run was thrown away or left to rot in basements. Today, comic historians estimate that fewer than 50 physical copies of Negro Romance survive anywhere in the world. Our cultural history doesn't survive because authorities deemed it important. It survives purely because a few random individuals decided a specific paper scrap was worth keeping out of the garbage. You might expect the highest levels of global power to be immune to this kind of vulnerability. When Abraham Lincoln delivered his second inaugural address at the Capitol in 1865, he spoke words of official, carved-in-stone grandeur. But the actual document he read from isn't pristine parchment. It's a chaotic rough draft covered in scribbles, where you can literally see Lincoln's own misspellings, like inaugural with an E. Lincoln took the printed proof from the typesetter and cut the paper into 27 separate slips with scissors and glued them onto a single sheet to dictate the pacing of his breathing during the delivery. The flawless monuments of presidential history are often just improvised, messy human drafts masquerading as inevitable destiny. Nowhere is that improvisation more obvious than in the transfer of the presidency itself. The official timeline states a simple fact. Vice President Calvin Coolidge immediately assumed the highest office in the land after President Harding died in 1923. But the reality of that transition played out at 2:47 in the morning, inside a rural farmhouse in an isolated, pitch-black Vermont village. When the telegram arrived, the household stood in silent shock. Coolidge's father went to the kitchen to heat water to shave, holding a kerosene lamp steady in his hands to light the room. There was a frantic debate over whether Coolidge's father, acting as a local notary, even had the legal authority to swear him in. Coolidge copied the oath onto a piece of scrap paper, raised his right hand, and his father read it aloud. We don't have these vivid details from an official White House scribe. We have them because a congressman named Porter H. Dale happened to be in the room and wrote down what he saw. And Dale's notes were completely lost to history until 1979, over 50 years later, when his grandson stumbled across the handwritten pages stuffed inside a storage shed that used to be a summer guest house. The only reason we know the reality of this transfer of power is due to the sheer luck of a misplaced document surviving the elements. When we look back at the past, we assume we are seeing a complete picture, but behind every polished myth and peaceful transfer of power lies a fragile physical object that almost didn't make it. Whether it's 400 surviving volumes of a massive Chinese encyclopedia, a president's cut and pasted reading copy, or a forgotten congressman's diary, our connection to the past is remarkably delicate. Thousands of archivists and researchers spend their lives cataloging and digitizing these fragile materials, actively pulling them back from the edge of erasure. Because ultimately, history is not just an objective record of what happened. History is exclusively a record of what survived.